Today, we're going to unravel an absolutely incredible story from history. And what's so wild about it is that it wasn't written down with ink. It was told with a needle and thread. Okay, so just imagine for a second. You've just witnessed this huge history-making battle that's going to change a kingdom forever. How on earth do you record that for people 1,000 years from now? Remember, you don't have a camera, not even a phone. There's no printing press, nothing like that. Well, for starters, you need a ton of fabric. We're talking about 230 feet of it. To put that in perspective, that's almost as long as a jumbo jet. So yeah, this thing is absolutely massive. And on that giant canvas of cloth, you tell the whole story. The result is the Bayeux Tapestry. And honestly, the best way to think about it is like a huge 1,000-year-old comic strip. It's this incredible visual play-by-play of one of the most important moments in English history. Now, here's a fun fact. We call it a tapestry, but that's actually not quite right. It's technically a massive embroidery. And what's the difference? Well, it means all those amazing, colorful pictures were all stitched onto a linen background with wool thread, not woven directly into the fabric itself. A small detail, but a cool one. So what exactly is this epic story that's sewn into the cloth? Well, it all kicks off with a classic setup for drama. You've got a king who doesn't have any kids to take over, a promise that gets broken, and, you guessed it, a massive fight for the throne. All right, let's meet the main characters in this drama from the year 1066. First up, you have King Edward of England. Great king, but he's got no heir. Then there's Harold Godwinson, a powerful English nobleman, who also happens to be Edward's brother-in-law. And finally, across the English Channel in France, you've got William, the Duke of Normandy. He's super ambitious, and he's convinced that King Edward had already promised the throne to him. Yeah, you can kind of see where this is going, right? The real trouble starts when Harold takes a trip to Normandy, but the trip goes completely sideways. He gets captured, and then, in a crazy twist, he's rescued by his rival, William. This leads to the super important moment where Harold swears a very serious oath to William. But as soon as Harold gets back to England, King Edward dies. And what does Harold do? He takes the crown for himself. Now, to really get why breaking that oath was such a huge deal, you need to understand what reliquaries are. Back in the Middle Ages, these were super sacred boxes that held holy objects, maybe even the bones of saints. Swearing an oath on one of these was the most serious, binding promise you could possibly make. So breaking that promise, that was a massive, massive deal. So you can imagine what happened when William heard that Harold was now the King of England. He was absolutely furious. That broken oath wasn't just some personal insult. For William, it was the perfect reason to go to war. He didn't even hesitate. He started getting an army together right away to invade England. And let me tell you, this was not a small undertaking. Let's look at the incredible effort it took for the Normans to get their invasion force ready. The tapestry shows this whole process in amazing detail. You can literally see workers chopping down trees to build an entire fleet of ships from scratch. They're loading up everything you'd need for war: chainmail, weapons, barrels of wine, and tons of food. And they had to transport their #1 weapon, armored knights, and their horses all the way across the English Channel. Eventually, with the right wind, the Norman fleet set sail. They landed on the English coast, and on October 14th, 1066, near a little town called Hastings, the two armies finally came face to face for the ultimate showdown. Now, these two armies were really different. The English were all on foot, but they had a major advantage. They were at the top of a steep hill. The Normans, on the other hand, had a mixed force of archers, foot soldiers, and their game changer, knights on horseback. Their big problem was that they had to charge uphill to break that English line. And the key to that English defense was something called a shield wall. The soldiers locked their shields together to create this solid, almost unbreakable barrier of wood and metal. For hours, the Norman attacks just bounced right off it. It was an incredibly tough nut to crack. At one point, things were looking really bad for the Normans. A rumor started flying through the ranks. William's been killed. His soldiers started to panic. Some even started running away. But then, and the tapestry actually shows this moment, William lifts his helmet so everyone can see his face, proving he's still alive and ready to fight. It was a critical move that stopped his army from falling apart. So, with his army's confidence back, William pulled a really clever trick. He had his knights pretend to retreat down the hill. Some of the English soldiers couldn't resist. They broke from their shield wall to chase after them. And that's exactly what William wanted. As soon as they were exposed, the Norman cavalry would whip around and attack. They did this a few times, and slowly but surely they started to break down that once unbeatable wall. And then it happened. The most famous, the most decisive moment of the entire battle. The tapestry shows it in graphic detail. King Harold, the English leader, is struck down. An arrow right in the eye. As soon as their king fell, the English army just fell apart. They lost their will to fight and fled. The battle was over, just like that. William's path to the throne was now wide open, and the Norman Conquest of England was complete. William was crowned King of England on Christmas Day, 1066. And this wasn't just a new guy on the throne. This changed everything about England. The conquest brought in a new ruling class, totally new laws, and even changed the English language forever by adding thousands and thousands of French words. Okay, so let's bring it all back to the tapestry itself. I mean, it's almost 1,000 years old. Why do we still care so much about this giant piece of embroidered cloth? Because it's like a time capsule. It's an absolutely priceless window into the past. It shows us what their armor and weapons actually looked like. It even shows us little details of everyday life, like how they built ships or cooked their food. And you have to remember, most people back then couldn't read, so this was how you told the story to everyone. It preserves the Norman point of view, making it both a masterpiece of art and a vital piece of history. But I want to leave you with one final thought. History, as they say, is often written by the victors. Or in this case, it was sewn by the victors. So it makes you wonder, what would this incredible story in stitches look like if the other side, the English, had been the ones holding the needle and thread?